So the way we're going to do it, because we only have Madhu and I will ask questions. And the reason why we have two people, because we have two users in this tool, and I will walk you through. So we have two logins. So on the bottom here, you see one is logged in as the admin. The other one in the second window, the other one is logged in as Thomas. So he's the admin, I'm Thomas. So what I want to do first is, normally the way you're going to start is you're going to set this up, you're going to be the admin, obviously, and the tool is split like an enterprise tool, right? You want to have multiple users, you have an admin. What are you going to do first? You're going to install the software. It's a piece of software you install on your own physical hardware. Bare metal server has to have a GPU, otherwise you don't get good performance because it runs an LLM. And we can get to this, the lessons learned, how big of a GPU you want, depending on how big the models are that you're going to run. But it's basically a server, you run the software. You install it. The first thing you want to do, you want to connect to your existing data sources. Again, to answer operations questions, you have to get to the data, because if you don't go data in, you have no good answers coming out, right? It's the garbage in, garbage out principle. So as the first thing, you say, hey, data connectors. We pre-built a bunch of them. This is clearly getting updated. I think this will accelerate significantly because most of the data source vendors today, they will build in MCP gateways. And now integrating is much, much easier. But basically what you're going to do is saying, hey, here's the whole list of pre-built data connectors that we have. You pick the one you want. You see the one that I created out, they're already activated. If you want to activate one, you would click on one, give it a name, give it a URI you have, give it the credentials or the token, and basically connect it to the tool. So the ones you see running, we have 2 Cisco products running. And quite frankly, the reason why you see this is not because we love Cisco more than anybody else. We're very neutral when it comes to hardware. It's just we built a demo for this little event that Tom referenced months ago. So we have a Catalyst Center connector build. We have a dashboard connector build. Once is our own SONiC orchestrator telemetry collector for SONiC devices. We have a connector into Elastic because we use this for some of flow data. We have a connector into IP Fabric. I don't know how many of you have heard about it. There we go. Didn't know. Interesting.
Used to work for them.
Oh, yeah. There we go. Didn't know either. So we built one. Where there are others you're going to see. If you looked at if you squinted, there's another engagement we're having with this company here. But yeah, it's interesting to us because it's a data lake. It's an interesting data that has snapshots, a lot of data in there if a customer uses this. We have a connector into Splunk. Most customers we're talking to use Splunk as for flow collection and log collection. So we're showing this here as how to get information about flow data. And then we have a Zendesk integration because we actually use this internally for all our ticketing. All of our customers that we support, we track all our open tickets in Zendesk. And so this gives you an idea. If you're an operations person that tries to figure out what's going on in your infrastructure, this is typical, right? You have to get some information from your device. You need to connect. You probably have some ticketing system somewhere, hopefully. And then you have other data sources, right? So that's direct pull, right? This is just API or MCP integration. We have an option that you actually can connect devices directly. And so this is coming where customers saying, hey, I don't have a controller. I just want to get the data directly of one of your devices. You can onboard that too. The other piece that is very, very important, what we have found, is you will have what I call more static contextual information that you use. And we're going to go through a bunch of these hosts because we actually use this feature of files a lot, right? This is like, I have end of life, end of sales information. That is not changing every minute. I don't need to go to the controller, right? I just need to have a spreadsheet or some kind of document where I have this in, right? Or I got a new CVE list that I need to care about. You can upload these things as files. These are data sources you can pull. Today we use a file. Eventually I have a feeling the answer is going to be, can you just connect to Google Docs Drive in my company? I think that's where it's going to go. But for this demo, we're just using files. Then obviously, as I mentioned, as an administrator, you're going to set up users. You say, hey, you literally can add users. You know, today we set this up local. Next up, guarantee again, integration with authentication mechanism in enterprise. You basically then just have the automatic privilege assignment. And then there's a license tab. So once you're done with this, you're ready to go. It's literally what this is. So what we built in here, you can be, particularly in smaller companies, you can both admin and user. You just toggle this over and you get the user screen. You see this here. This is the capability you have as a user. And that's the same when I'm just a user, I can actually get the admin function. I just be the user, right? But you see it's the same things, right? And the important thing, and we're going straight in, we have two things. We have chats, and this is what you would expect from a chat interface, right? Ask question, go on, right? And then we have this tab, it's called projects. And the reason we built this, again, feedback from customers saying, hey, I just don't want to chat Thomas talking with the Copilot, right? I want to have the ability to build containers. Think about a troubleshooting session around certain events, right? Could be use case, could just be an event. Could be, hey, I have an outage going on. I want a couple of people being part of that project. I have contextual information relevant for this event I upload. And I want to have a chat around this. And so what we're going to go through, and you see it here, we have a bunch of these populated. These are basically all the use cases we're going to talk through, the events. And I think that was the question, is like, where's the value? The first one is around inventory. And you see the way it works, you basically create a project inventory, which I did. Then what we have for every inventory, you see the chat history in this inventory. Then you can see, hey, are there additional files that you want to upload? You could just say click upload from your local device. You will be able to point to URL, or you will be able to point to a local path on the server, depending on how you deploy it. And then you have information around every one of these projects, which is always the same. It tells you, hey, what's the description? Who created it? Who is the admin? And the admin for the project is the person that creates it, right? You will have to control who do you want to invite to be part of your chat session, so to speak. And then you say, hey, I added a super admin, which is this gentleman today. And he has his own account as well, but we basically have these two in here. And then the other very important piece is, remember, we have these data connectors that the administrator sets up. You can actually turn them on and off, depending on what you want to do, right? Because part of this is nice to have a lot of data, but why pollute when you know for that particular project, like around inventory, I really don't need Zendesk, right? What I really want is I want a connection to the relevant controllers where my inventory, network device inventory sits, right? And you're just saying, hey, these are the ones I care about, and turn them on or off. And now you're basically going on and asking questions. So I'm going to become Thomas now, and Madhu becomes the person asking questions. So I assume we're probably...
I think we'll be getting...
Let me see. This is where hopefully your demo works. Looks like I have some... Wow.
So that one, yeah.
I think we have both. There we go.
Yeah. So
this works. Oh, here we see it.
Yeah.
Little delay. Why didn't you talk?
Yeah, so there is a user tag. So DNAC is for like Catalyst Center. I'm just asking, like, so show me all the IP address and host names. It's essentially under the hood, like there is a bunch of agents working in tandem. And, manage agent is kind of receiving this prompt, and essentially it is delegating to a data retrieval agent, which collects the data and it is displaying in a nice, table format. So you see some of the data, there is something like, empty data. So which of these are the devices are like, having not speaking, enough data, so we can go ahead and, fix those issues, right? So you'll be having, a bunch of data. It will give you a snapshot about your data center, which is managed by Catalyst Center.
Right.
Okay? Yeah.
So yeah, I probably should have, when I saw the connectors we turned on, we had Catalyst Center, and Thomas, because I used to work in this company, said, oh, just give it a nickname DNAC, that some of you probably get the joke. We turned on Nexus Dashboard for Nexus devices, and we turned on IP Fabric.
IP Fabric.
As a data source for device information. So here what you say is basically saying you can basically pick, when you ask the question, you say, hey, which data connector I want to use? So you can specify, you can either not specify and you pull from everyone, or you just specify, I want data from this collector. Yep. And you saw this here, right? This is basically saying, hey, provide me hostname information, what devices you have available.
Yeah. So the next question I would like to see, like, how many devices being managed by, my Nexus Dashboard. So essentially there are two 9K devices, which is managed by Nexus Dashboard. And I pick up these devices. I wanted to go, like, I want to find out what is the OS versions, basically they are running on it. So you can also have, like, some of the devices details, like,
While he's doing this, I basically can comment on a parallel.
Yeah.
Right. And so you basically, when you don't want to ask the tool, you just basically say, hey, who's the person I want to talk to? And you say, hey, this is cool. Or what about this? Right. And the idea behind this really is, if you're in a troubleshooting session, number one, we never sit next to each other. Yeah. You probably sit in different rooms, so in different locations, and you can chat while you're actually inspecting stuff.
So I receive a notification here, I can say,
Right. So he asked the question. Oh, there we go. Yes. The question he asked was around, give me some of the device detail for this host name, right? And I don't know whether you caught this. This is basically coming out of Catalyst Center, but you see it's actually a virtual Nexus instance, which tells you actually Catalyst Center can detect Nexus devices. I didn't know this until we run this in our own lab. We basically have a setup of these. And so, yeah, you find this out, right? And you just get the information. And you look at the other thing you see here, this is basically the detailed information we're currently pulling through the connector, but you basically can pull whatever you want. It's just a definition, what data you want to get out of your existing data lake.
Yeah, so those were some of the notifications you would see in the bell symbol.
Yeah.
So how is that, the data that you're pulling there, how is that defined? Because you said a couple of times that you're not really training on operational data. It's too hard or it's maybe even impossible to train on an operational network because everything's changing. So then how are these different fields and these different, like how does it know when you're asking for an IP address, what an IP address is?
Yeah, so first thing is we didn't, so there is no training here. So essentially we use like supervised fine tuning. So basically we set it up like bunch of agents. For example, for SQL retrieval, we have a SQL agent. Essentially it has like, both reasoning capabilities. It's not just answering to you. It is thinking, it is breaking down the steps, and it's also fine tuned for like, for networking domain. So we took the pre-trained foundation model and fine-tuned for our networking use case so that like we should be able to understand so what is the networking geography. Yeah.
So then are these the agents themselves and the LLM itself, are those things that I'm guessing you didn't build an entire LLM yourselves?
No.
Good point. Absolutely not.
Absolutely.
I did not. Maybe I went too fast. Modular. We build data connectors, and so yeah, you do need to specify in the data connector either the specific data set you want, knowing the API, or with MCP going forward, MCP will tell you based on what you asked, can I have that data? And then you can map it into your internal data structure. So that's how the first line of mapping functions. Either you know the specific APIs you're calling, these are the attributes I care about, and you pull them in, or you go through an MCP connector that kind of advertises what it has. And then the second one is really the agent that says, hey, based on that set of attributes I pulled, and the question you ask, this is what I'm going to do with reasoning, summarization, with the data I pulled, right? And you can now have agent, single agent, multi-agent, and just keep manipulating the data and then coming back with an answer, and then you can follow up. So yeah, that's why it's very important. There is really no training on the data in the LLM. The LLM we use, actually for this one, we're using a 70B Llama model. We can plug anyone in. So we prefer open source because you prefer probably not paying extra for the token. But yeah, you can package up any open source. We started off initially with a 7 or 8B model. We tried Mistral
and
Llama.
And
I mean, you can point wherever you want. It's basically modular. In one of the future version, and since we're recorded, I have to be careful how much I say, but you saw when you're as an admin, you can define not just data connectors, you will have the ability to choose LLMs.
Yeah. So to the point, like the technical, like we use like, instruction fine tuning. That's where like, so it is the like least common denominator of all the schemas, so which can understand by multiple controllers. So that's why we should be able to see the better answers here. Yeah.
When you're using an MCP from a vendor, how does that part work? Then if you have that kind of layer in there to kind of translate, a port is an interface, and interfaces.
Yes. So that's what the adoption layer, like, basically the normalization. So the two things actually, if it is the data coming to our data lake, we have a pipeline where it's not only collection, it is data normalization before actually storing it. Whereas in the MCP collector, MCP, when you have a predetermined MCP, connectors, essentially the agent have the capability to, denormalize before answering that. So that's the setup, like, how it's kind of a software design model.
So that's really where all the development is from your side, is really that normalization of those outputs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is the heavy lifting we are doing.
And the way I see this with our customers playing is, and it's not like we have like 20 connectors. It's not like you connecting 20 different data sources, right? This is more like you probably have 5 or 6 you use. It's just they're not the same 5 or 6 with different customers. So that's why you see the different set. Realistically, you have 1 or 2 probably where your actual network device information lives. You probably have 1 or 2 for flow and log, right? You probably have a CMDB, and you for sure have a ticketing system. And then that's probably it. And then maybe there's, we've shown this, you probably have a Slack interface or whatever is your choice of communications. And you might want to tie that one in so you can use this as an input-output channel for whatever you're going to do with the Copilot. But that's in the end, is probably as an operations team what you care about, right? And so it's just now when you set this up is picking the right connectors, making sure for the question, the use case you want to go after, I get the right data. That is actually not a lot of work because, again, we built this very modular. You can tune the adapters correctly, right? We have a base set there, but if you say, hey, you see, this is what you have, I want also the, let's say, the firmware version, we can add this because most of these data sources will have them, right? And so that's really the adjustment. And that's, I don't want to, that's probably like less than 4 weeks work to actually get this going for a specific environment. Yeah. But yeah, let's.
So let's,
Sorry. Oh, no, you guys have a question.
Go ahead. So, is it hosted by Aviz or is it?
No.
It's self-hosted. Okay.
We can, but we don't think that what you want.
Okay.
You deploy it on your own server.
Okay. Is there like specific requirements? Do you need a specific chipset? Or can you run
NVIDIA GPU.
Okay.
Based on what we know, you want at least an A100. You're probably better off using an H100, and the A100 goes away anyway.
Okay.
You need a single GPU. You don't need a large cluster. You basically need one server with a GPU, and then you need a certain amount of memory. So yeah, you need basically a server with a GPU in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So because you've got a lot of different like data connectors here, and some of these things you can have overlapping data. So like IP Fabric can get inventory and DNA or.
Why didn't you ask the IP Fabric question or just show it while I answer? Yeah. So that is a good point. So this is one of the scenarios of use cases. We don't have it in here, but I do actually think this is one of the basic use cases that all of our customers want is, hey, run some data consistency overlapping data set issues, right? It's not just one is in the same, let's say in the same controller, you have overlapping IP address, clearly a problem, or duplicate MAC addresses, clearly a problem. You should be able to scan for this, right? This is very easy. But now you have to, hey, I got data for the same IP address from 2 different data sources. What am I going to do with this, right? And so, yeah, you basically have to build some logic as an agent. Either you say, hey, I prefer that source over that, or you actually run this and then start cleaning up your data sets, right? And you see it, there was one of the tables you saw, some of the attributes were missing. It's actually a powerful tool. I see this as a powerful tool because now you say, hey, I have inconsistent data, right? I need to clean this up because if I don't have this cleaned up, I just have misleading answers, misguided answers.
So yeah, theoretically, you could do something like show me the inventory from IP Fabric versus the inventory from
you could absolutely
Catalyst Center.
Compare data. Yeah. We haven't built this in. I don't know whether it will, but that's part of the, if you look, we have this option here. We built this on purpose that you can actually either not specify the data source or you specify the data source. You can actually look at different outputs depending on what happens.
Yeah, because I want to answer questions like, what devices am I getting syslog stuff from, which I don't have recorded in any inventory anywhere, because for whatever reason they haven't been discovered. Those sorts of things. That's the sort of stuff I want to solve.
Yeah.
What's in the CMDB that in ServiceNow that hasn't shown up in Splunk?
It's in ServiceNow. It's marked as we killed that off 5 years ago, but hey, it's still over.
Right. Or it's in ServiceNow, but I don't see it, and that's probably because you forgot to clean up. So these are really, this is like, by the way, this is I think where this shines because you can figure out some of these are real issues, some of this just data cleanup issues that have nothing to do with the tool, by the way. It's just you can find this very quick and then say, hey, ServiceNow owner, what happens? Go fish. So this was the example here, just to show the top so you see the question asked. Is
so how many?
IP Fabric, we specified, you know how IP Fabric works, it has snapshots. We're basically saying, hey, tell us how many snapshots. We're using a sandbox that they graciously provided to us. And you see, you basically get the detail of snapshot ID, snapshot timestamp, name. And you see, these are not all snapshots on the same network, right? Again, it's a sandbox. They're different sizes. There's like 700 devices. Some of these are the same. These are, you see different days of the same.
Yeah.
Right? And you see device changes.
Yeah. So
I got a quick one too, so before you move on. So does this do correlation on historical data? Like
if you have correlation, if you have historical data, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so it says ask whatever you want, and I can ask it like, hey, last Tuesday we were having this issue, but it went away. Can you give me some insights around the state of the environment during this time on this day? Is that
you can ask?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, so basically, you can pull like historical data in the past 24 hours or like what day you want, right? So essentially, to pull the data and it provide that correlator response to you. Yeah.
So one of the lessons learned based on, because Thomas did precisely when I started, is like, let me ask you this question. Number one, you need to know what data is available.
Sure.
If you ask questions about data is not available, you're not going to get a good answer, right? Or the tool is just, hey, I don't know what to do.
I don't know.
Second one is also very important. Is like this whole prompting, right? The more specific you ask the question, you better of an answer you get, right? And not only a better answer, the faster you get an answer, right? You actually can ask a question. We have to, we get to the security audit. I hope we get there.
Yeah.
If you ask it without specifying the IP address or the IP address range, it just will try to run this across all the devices you have access to. If you have 1,000 devices, you probably need to go for lunch, right? Unless you have a really large GPU, right? But that's very normal. It's just like the boiling the ocean question versus tuning enough so you get what you want to go to the next step. But yes, you can absolutely ask this question. If you have, let's say in the controller, you have contextual windows for like 2 weeks past, and you say, hey, there was an event last Tuesday, show me all the alerts that happened within 1 hour, you will get that data.
Yeah.
And if you have
available.
and if you have another like source of data that it's pulling from that has that data, it can pull it. For example, if there's like dynamic baselining in Catalyst Center and there's a variant and an anomaly, it can you can ask about that because that's a data source that's
absolutely
feeding. Okay.
Absolutely, you can do that. And that's where LLMs really shine because they're good correlating data streams. What you need to think about is, are these data streams using the same time intervals and data, right? If you ask about last Tuesday, in Catalyst Center, Tuesday is very well defined, and maybe in Splunk, where your flow data sits, you don't have last Tuesday, that's a problem. But as long as you know how your data, where it sits, you can absolutely do this.
You don't have an intermediate data source, right? You don't extract the data, put it into a temporary store, and
yes,
do
we
the
do.
correlation.
We do.
You do that.
We do. Absolutely. You have to.
You have to. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should. That's Thomas's opinion. There are probably companies saying, hey, you don't do this at all.
You probably have to because
you won't, otherwise it takes so long, right?
That's correct. So you will do the reasoning will actually query the data from one source, put it into an interim, and then do a SQL query or whatever appropriate to it to answer that.
So basically to correlate the multiple.
Yeah, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult. You can't do that.
Say like ephemeral storage or like in persistent storage, right? So keeping that.
So like a specific of that would be like hostname. One system might use host names and one might use IP addresses. So your data would have those two stitched together, so that when I look at a data source, if I ask about this host name, it knows that this IP address.
You have to have a common attribute somewhere.
Common attribute,
right? If you only have host name in one and IP address the other, you will never be able to match.
Okay.
But if you have only host name in one data source and the other one has IP name and host name, now I will be able to pull data that is only linked to host name. That you can do.
To do that.
You have to do the SQL join.
Absolutely.
Precisely.
And one more point. So when you're working on a huge data, so we are having a workflow saying that instead of staring at the screen, we are sending it as a offline thing. So you can,
that makes sense. Basically,
send it to our Slack.
Query the filter, extract that, put it in there, and then do the massive join across whatever data sets you believe are necessary to answer the question. Write the query to your interim data source, and then answer the question.
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
That's correct.
So let's do this. We were in the inventory. This is the basic stuff. I would call this the basic stuff. Trying to figure out what do you actually have in your network, right? Let's maybe go to the next one.
So you want to touch upon use cases? Yeah.
Let's come to that. Let's go to the next one. Hosting validation. This is one that Thomas, I don't want to say made up. I got this a lot. I know this from a lot of enterprise customers.
Yeah.
They're very, let me just go there.
Yeah.
Similar idea. I have to go there on both sides.
Yeah.
So you see the same. Similar idea. Here what we do is we actually have uploaded a file, right? You basically can just upload a file. And it's basically the idea is, hey, most of the enterprises have very specific host name naming convention. And part of this is because you just want to know based on the host name, where's this device, right? Location, geo, rack, whatever you encode, right? And you really hate when people just adding devices and giving a non-descriptive unnamed host name. So what you can do is be saying, hey, I have a naming convention file. That's static information. It just specifies what that convention ought to be. And then you basically say, hey, and now we go, which one are we going to?
Yeah, I'll click on that, Yeah, that's the same thing.
All right. So we actually run this here, right? And so the first one was, hey, show me all the host names. Oh, what I forgot to tell you. You go back here. Where's the data coming from? Right? I should actually show you this.
Yeah.
Right? So in this case, man.
Okay.
It takes a while. Normally, So here we're connected to IP Fabric and we're connected to ones, right? So again, you can change this based on project, what you want to connect to.
Yeah.
And so basically here the question is really, show me all the host names. So it basically, and since I didn't specify which source to go, it pulls from both. right? And show us the list what I have, right? You see some of these come out of the IP Fabric sandbox. And I'm not saying they don't have a naming convention. It's just not the one that you want. And then some here in the middle, you see it, they come out of once. Yeah. And then we're basically saying as a follow-up to this, actually the follow-up needs to happen.
Yeah, so it is happening.
It's working.
Yeah, it's working, yeah.
It's not popping up yet. But then it's like, hey, let me actually see Heavy. Or maybe I'm on the wrong chat. We have another one. Let me see this. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Same, list all the host names. Yeah. Then you basically say, oh, I need to wait. Yeah. This is a scrolling thing. There we go. Then you can ask a question. This was all the host names, saying, hey, list all valid host names per the uploaded file that has the naming convention. And the file is very, very simple in this case. It basically just says, hey, the first 3 digits has to be either one of these, the next 4 after this. But you really can define what you want. It's very, you define what you want, right? That's the beauty of having a separate input file. And then you just filter and saying, hey, show me all the host name that match, right? And you're saying, hey, these are the 4, and all the other ones don't, right? So the use case really here is if you come in the morning saying, hey, who added device to my network? Show me which ones, and then show me whether they're correctly named. And if not, you're gonna go fix.
So do you have a way to tag something in as like your source of truth? Like if there's all these different sources and there are variants, can you identify, okay, this is what it should be? And or is it only polling information? Are you able to execute like, hey, by the way, these should be this, make sure that the other ones get updated?
So maybe just to make sure I understand the question, we're not controlling when you create a device, right? That's done somewhere else.
This is strictly
just basically curring and saying, hey, tell me based on what is available, whether they are named properly, right? And all you do is saying properly is defined in your file what properly means. And now I basically pull from all my data connectors the devices that are actively live and saying, hey, properly, does it match? And the answer is yes or no, right? And then yes, as a follow-up, what you probably will do is instead of saying, hey, show me not the ones that are valid, show me the ones that are non-valid, and you just open a ticket and saying, go fix, right? Or if you actually the individual IT user for everything, you could just go to the device, log in, and fix the host names.
And these do show the source, like if you're polling 7 things and you're getting back 8 different examples, are going to show exactly which one was.
We haven't added, hold on, I don't think we have added it here. That's the next step. What you have is you can pick the source. So you can say, hey, you can basically sequence this. What we will do, one of the feedback we have is besides what you said, if you pull from multiple data sources at the same time, tag data based on what the source is. So you actually see where it's coming from. Yeah.
Is the data ranked too by source in some way? If you have multiple of the same indicators,
that's some of the things to work through. How do you then you basically would have to tag, hey, this, let's say if you go by hostname or IP address of what you're asking for, and it is in both, it comes from different data sources, you will have to tag it with multiple source tags.
Yeah.
Right.
And kind of where my thoughts were going on that as far as like a source of truth goes, right?
Yeah.
It's, okay, if I've got 12 things that came back, I can look and say, oh, but that's the one that it should be. So let me make sure that I'm getting the rest of these.
You have to define, or you as the organization has to define which one you would believe is the right one, right? Copilot will not be able to tell you this, right? It just tells you there's a drift, or there are differences, right? Again, we're not the data management tool, right? But yeah, you probably come after a while to the conclusion that's the data source I trust, and you might just use that and then just check the other ones.
Yeah.
So the user still has to be aware of the data source and how the data source does its work, right? It doesn't, it's not like any user can come into this. They still have to have knowledge of that underlying technology.
You have to, it's not the technology I think you need the knowledge. You need to know as an operations person, which tool I go to today, because it's not like you go to different tools with this, right? It's not magic. All what it does, and this is what Sneha was asking the question, what's the value? You use the same tools you use today and you trust today to get the data, but it's easy to get it in one spot, and it automatically correlates stuff here instead of you having to do this in spreadsheets and download and trying to figure this out. All of this is done here, right? But whether the data source is a source of truth or has errors or needs to get cleaned up, I can highlight this here, right? So this is actually very important, highlighting whether there's inconsistency, but fixing that is not what Copilot will do, right? Because Copilot cannot do it, and quite frankly, I don't think it should.
Yeah, in the long term, you can add hints. So as a user, you can hint and you can say, I prefer this over this with this kind of data. You can put your preferences file in there eventually, Right?
No, you see that. So we have to. You see. Let me see. You see it here. This is what we have in mind. You basically can use this for questions. It's like I like the answer, I don't, and then you can use. We use this as a feedback mechanism to.
Sure.
To
you can do reinforcement
rank
later on if you
reinforcement
want.
what questions are good. And the same you will end up doing with data sources, right? I think in the end you will trust certain data sources more than others. But again, the tool will allow you to discover blind spots, right? Because you will have inconsistencies.
Yeah.
But I want to hit, right? So the next time I use it,
absolutely.
it has preferences on my preferences,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Can I ask a question? You use this word correlation, and I think maybe what's in my mind for correlation, especially when I think about machine learning and AI and stuff, is different to what I've seen so far.
Right, you haven't seen all of
and
it yet.
Right now,
Yeah,
this is a fancy query front end.
it is.
And I honestly I don't remember the last time I thought, I want to know what device I have in that data center. I need to go and type out. This is not realistic for me at all, right? And I'm struggling to see a use. Now, the example that was given about, well, last Tuesday I had a problem, and you have visibility of the network device status, Splunk, no tickets coming in, and you can look at all this stuff. Now, if you can literally correlate that stuff, I don't want a list of, I have far too many events coming into my SIEM, into Splunk and stuff, in order to be able to go just list them out. That's crazy. I'm looking for it to say, you know what, this all seems to have started here because this event happened, and that's what I see as correlation. And I'm hoping part of your demo shows that kind of intelligence, because to me, that's where the value is. Everything I've seen so far, give or take, can be done with a Python script, right? And I don't mean to be insulting to the work in the product. I just struggle to see the benefit of chat ops or AI chat ops or AI ops or whatever we want to call this, unless it does more than just query multiple data sources to get the answer, right? And I appreciate being able to take a naming convention file and have it determine what it is. Okay, fine. But it's still not, I'm waiting for the value prop here.
We'll have some more, but I know where you're going.
Okay, good.
The interesting feedback, and by the way, if you're if you're the one who has to troubleshoot, that's precisely what you want, right? Some of what we had shown so far, we got a lot of questions from like IT ops people and saying, hey, I own a network of 1,000 devices across multiple locations, let's say school districts, which is basically where some of these comes from. I have to run a report every quarter, which is, by the way, the security audit. We probably should click on this. And that's just a saying, and this is similar to, again, this is very similar to we're saying, hey, all my devices have to have a certain basic set of configurations, right? TechX, AAA, SNMP, community string on, off. Just generate me this report. Yeah, this is not what you're looking for. This is just, please generate me that PDF and go. Which one you want to go on?
So, click on that one. Click on.
Yeah. But I will come.
Yeah.
We have I think a few. Let's maybe after this we're gonna jump to recap. But before we go, let's go through this. But I know where you're going with this.
Okay, good. Thank you.
So essentially, like when you ask a report, right? Basically, there are a bunch of agents working in tandem. So one agent basically go and grab configuration from the devices securely. The second agent basically it understands the user, the compliance requirements. Basically, take that requirements. What are the features I need to validate it? Once it validates on the configuration, it provides you the compliance report. So if you look at that compliance requirements, so you can set it up like I wanted to have security feature and logging and management. And for example, different customer, you don't need all the things. I want to have only security. So basically, it is customized for you, and it's sending you a report. And if you have a collaboration channel, it will be pushing onto your Slack or ServiceNow tickets. Yeah, that's what it is. And
so is that very, very similar to previous one, different scenario, right? You basically in this case you're saying, hey, I have a certain set of things that need to be present in every configuration. I define this in a data source, and then I just check on a regular basis across all my devices and generate a nicely formatted report. The initial time we got this, so this was out of a financial institution saying, hey, we have to do these CIS style reports. This is the 7 you look for. can you do this? Answer is yes, absolutely can. It's pretty straightforward. Then the next one I say is there's a lot of people that run large networks but are very short-staffed. It's like, I don't want to do this manually. I want to run this as a general tool. But yeah, you're right. It's a correlation of device information and set of conditions you need to do.
Yeah. So do you want to show the files or
the files we could show, but basically what is the input file, what we were using, say, you just specify the features that are the condition what you want to show in the report. And then the agent is built around it saying, go to every device that you have access. That's why, whereas my comment earlier, there was a question. How do you frame the question? You want to ask this around specific IP addresses because otherwise you're trying to get the information from every one of potentially 1,000 devices. That would take very long. If you ask this very specific, it will just pick this device, it will go to the device, we'll use the credentials that are, pull the actual config, compare against the reference what you're asking for, and we'll give you a summary.
Yeah.
Right?
Then we want to go to UL.
I mean, and again, I'm not being rude. I literally do this with a shell script.
I know, I know.
And I'm trying to help you because I want to see something that isn't easily replaceable with a script. And maybe easily is rude, but do you know what I mean? I'm looking for something that makes me go, oh, I don't know how I would do that.
Which one do we want to pick next?
But blow me away, please.
No, I don't want to do this. I don't want to have the liability, man, for this one.
The correlation use case. I mean, EOS, yeah.
No, let's not do that. Let's
ticketing. Yeah.
You want to do? Yeah, no. Let's do the ticketing.
Yeah.
Which is probably a good one to come close.
Yeah. So I can click on this.
Which one do you want to go to?
This one.
Okay.
Yeah.
So ticketing. So maybe we set it up before we go there. Actually, I should tell this. Well, a couple of things we're going to do here. One is the data source we're really using is Zendesk, right? And so what this is, as I say, we use this actually for all our internal case tracking for our actual customer support. So that's why I need to be careful here how I ask a question, because otherwise you're going to see customer details, which I don't want to share. And then the other thing what we have is, so we uploaded a file here, which is actually a console log from an actual customer situation. Again, I just renamed this in ABC and screened this out so it becomes clean. And so this probably gets a little bit into the direction where you're going. But I do want to make the comment. A lot of these things you will be able to do with scripting. Mm-hmm. The beauty of this is, unless you know how to script, this one is what, it's basically agent. The way I think about agents these days, these are basically scripts around certain topics, right? That tells you, I need this data, and I need this output, right? And then the LLM helps you to stitch together the agents. So if you are a very sophisticated scripter, a lot of pulling the data together you will be able to do. Where the LLM comes in, this we showed this here a little bit, is actually interpreting the data and then helping you with suggestions. But maybe let's roll through this.
Yeah. So so here is the agent. It have a bunch of tools available. It's not only pulling the data from Zendesk in real time. It's also used so how to plot it and how to generate pie charts. How to basically to make sure that in past 30 days, like timeline series, right? So basically, it is summarize it for you. And for example, here I ask a question saying that can you plot a line chart for number of tickets closed in per week? It gives you over a timeline in past 1 year. So it gives you the trend. So how many tickets being closed per week? So it's kind of a trend is around in March timeframe we have peak, and it's come down in basically July. And this is one other thing I want to use. 1 second, not moving down.
Keep going.
I keep going. Okay, let me ask this.
So while you guys watching this, any other ideas you have? What you actually? I heard the troubleshooting piece.
I'd kind of to piggyback on that a little bit. What about like RCA? Like, hey, I've got these things that happen, and I do need to take things from 7 or 8 different things and try to come up with a root cause instead of having to manually go into each one of those and then try to put that stuff together myself.
Yeah,
I think so. There is a prompt is going on. Yeah, let me.
I don't see it yet, but
yeah. So let me know. Just refresh here.
I'm on the right one, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's basically agent is pulling the data and it's showing in a trend. So how many tickets being so what is the status of monthly tickets? It's kind of providing you a nice bar charts. How many being closed, how many been pending, and how many are kind of solved, right? So this is kind of a timeline we are showing it. The next question, I think, whatever in the same lines, I'm going to ask you. So provide a root cause analysis of like, the file I have uploaded, right? So let me.
So just to be clear, there's no configuration that can take place for this. It's strictly input of data.
What we show today
and correlation.
We have not implemented that.
Okay.
You can, right? Because you're connecting to a configuration, a controller. You actually can, if you implement the MCP API interface as pushing information or configuring, you absolutely could.
Okay.
Yeah. So here, I mean, I got a bunch of files from customer. I wanted to quickly, instead of like going through all the list, I just upload to the tool, Network Copilot. It should be able to basically it provides you all the important details to find out like root cause. It's not really. It's kind of a first kind of a draft I can take over. And if you look at this, it talk about like what is the configuration being there. So what are the error messages? What are the basically it is giving us to troubleshoot and also it gives you what is the issue and what could be the potential root cause and how you can quickly address it. And I would say that this is not the end of the day, but you can take this as a handout and we can go to the next level. We can fix that problem. Yeah.
So just for context here, because it's very important to understand, what we have is a collection of logs that came through a ticketing system, in this case, from a customer environment. We added in that same file additional context on what devices were used. And then we're basically running this through the LLM and the agents to basically pass this out and saying, hey, give me a summary of what's going on, right? And so based on what it sees in that log, right, which if you have a log, it's basically like CLI output is, it literally gives you somebody saying, hey, what devices do I have? Where do I have problems? Status up, status down. It really shows you that there's some interface issues, right? It changed actually from up to down, right? And you can actually see that history going on here. And then it also, based on the log, it will tell you, hey, we see some issues around this MAC address. There seems to be a multi-chassis lag issue going on. And then you basically see additional things that happen during this time in the log, right? It's just literally passing through way quickly. And then what you can do is basically saying, hey, summarize this out. And can you ask follow-up and saying, do a root cause analysis? I think this is where you're going. Hey, can you actually give me, based on it, this is where LLMs, pre-trained LLMs are actually pretty powerful. If you have tried this out, based on what they know, based on public trained information around issues that pops up, they will give you actually a pretty good guidance on what the potential is. It will go through this. It finds all the error messages with the detail and saying, hey, here's some of the things that I see. And then it will go through and saying, here are potential root causes. And now you can use that and saying, hey, configuration issue. And it's what you would do, and I think what you're getting, saying, okay, now I would know this device, saying, hey, show me the timeline of configuration changes for this device, doing that specific spot, right? And so now you can go and follow up and get that data, right? Or you can say, hey, I see a link issue. Give me the link status for both ends of that link in that time, right? And so you either can do this as a follow-up question, or if you actually know the sequence of questions you want to ask, you build an agent around it. And that becomes pretty straightforward. We actually tested this out, again, since we have real customer data, we tested it out saying, hey, if you would just take this and feed this into the LLM we're using here versus public LLMs, the data are 50 to 70% very much on point. You actually get very good guidance on potential issues, what's going on, that help you then to follow up.
So, question on this, with what you're showing here with this log data that you've uploaded with this, is this from a single device or is this from a series of multiple devices that are providing that data set?
It's multiple devices.
Okay. Right.
MCLAG domain, yeah.
Yeah, in this particular case, there's a multi-chassis lag issues. We're seeing link flaps going on. We're trying to figure out what's going on. We pulled the log from both devices.
Right.
Over time, and then saying, tell me what's going on.
Okay.
So if I can zoom out a little bit from the use cases you've shown us there, which are good, and to John's point about, maybe I could write a script for any one of these individual use cases, but when I'm looking at this, and I guess I'm looking for you to tell me if I'm right or wrong, how I'm seeing this, one of the kind of fallbacks or the things that's holding us back from doing network automation and better observability and some of these things is you've got network engineers who are saying, what if I don't want to learn Python? What if I don't want to become a programmer? And so what I'm seeing here is I can do the things that I would be able to do with a program without having to write the program. So if I know the network, if I know networking, if I understand OSPF and BGP and VLANs, and I know what questions to ask, I can just ask those questions, get results back, and not have to have someone write a script for me for every single use case. And then also you're kind of
on that one.
Creating an abstraction layer there where maybe I don't have to go learn Junos if I know iOS, and maybe I don't need to learn Catalyst Center if I don't know IP Fabric. And so now all of a sudden, the only thing that matters to me as a network engineer is knowing how a network works.
Yes.
And this gives me a tool that I can manage any network without any additional knowledge.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't have summarized much better than that. No, but I think it's very important. That's what I'm saying is I look at this, there are different user types. If you're a scripter, you probably can do most of this. However, you can't make it easily usable for everybody else, right? If you're not, you're like level 1 network ops support, you're not scripting, you need this, right? If you are a person that has to do audit reports, capacity planning, budget requests, because I need to lock up what my devices are end of life and when do I need to buy new ones, this is ideal for you, right? I think the question you asked, can I configure? Where we think this is a lot of value for configuration is not pushing configuration, because most people have their pipelines to do this. They will never use a tool like this, in my personal opinion. What we'll use it for is like, hey, I want to get port up and down, or I want to attach a VLAN to a port or a port group.
Yeah.
That's very easy to do, right? You can say, hey, show me the ports that went down, or I want to troubleshoot, I need to bring the port up and down. That you can easily do here, right? And you can see this, right? You just look at, show me the status of this device, show me the status of the port, change it. You know, what you would typically do in a troubleshooting session, right? Saying, hey, anything else? Did I have better reachability now or not? You can do all of that.
Yeah, I was going to say, one of the big things, I've seen this in Catalyst Center, is during a troubleshooting, giving suggestions on commands to run to kind of see what could possibly be the issue. And I think that's a big thing, especially for junior engineers that, haven't done, haven't gone through a particular troubleshooting session or seen an issue like that before. And just knowing kind of those kind of esoteric show commands that, you use once or twice in your career type of thing.
Yeah.
But that's where I see a lot of value in that. So
yeah. This is not a tool. If you're on a CLI, this is not a replacement for a CLI. I wouldn't even suggest that. It is really more like what you were saying. I don't know all the different CLIs. I don't want to learn all of this. Give me the information across, right? Can you execute CLIs under the hood? Absolutely. Like what you said, Catalyst Center say that. You just copy this, please execute. And if the connector is set up properly, you basically get the outputs. Yep. I think we're going to run out of time. Damn. We have way more in there, but I guess you basically have to just all follow up if you're interested. And this is for a larger audience on the screen. Let me do one more, and then I give it back to Tom. Yeah. What I did want to go, nope. I want to just leave you with two things. A bunch, I'm not going to go through this. What I wanted to leave you with is, hey, I always get the question, so how hard is this? It's not hard. You can deploy this very quick. It's your own server. You set it up. We will work with you, making sure if you don't have the data connector, you get the data connector. We will work with you, make sure to get the data out of the data connector. We put in the hardware requirement here. And then based on everything I have seen, this will pay for itself within a year, right? And the question always is, if you want to use these kind of capabilities, you either have to hire data scientists or you have to figure out how to get this infrastructure in the cloud, which costs a lot. You don't have to do this yet. Software running on a standard server. And you should be able to automate away all the boring stuff, which leads to stuff that you actually enjoy doing. So that's, I think, where I want to leave it. What we didn't get through, but we will have more. We have integration, how you actually can use this to do interesting packet capture analysis, observability analysis, but we will have an end-up event coming up, and you can learn all of this stuff there. Yeah. So with that, thanks for the good feedback. Troubleshooting is a holy grail. It's going to be fun, but think about this tool as available for a whole set of different user personas, and you captured it actually really well, where I see a lot of value with that.